Hi, this is Alia, and I'm here to give some recommendations for the Queer Lit Readathon. It runs from the 5th to the 11th of this month, and you can find all information for it on Instagram and Twitter at Queer Lit Readathon. I'm also going to put their links in the description box so that you can easily find that information. For this video, I'm just doing voice recording with the bingo board. You're going to be seeing that, and then I'm going to put photos up of the books that I'm talking about, and that's much easier for me to get a video actually out. It's less editing. Otherwise, I was afraid I wasn't even gonna be able to get anything out in time since I'm still new at this, so I hope that's okay. I also want to say that if you hear any noises in the background, any animal noises, I recorded my room and I have guinea pigs that live with me, and they do like to talk a lot, so you might end up hearing them chatter. So for the Queer Lit Readathon, you really can just read any queer books that you want to, but there's also this bingo board that I have up, and there's a few ways you can go about it. You can try and black out the whole board if you read a whole lot of books, or you can just try and get a row or a column, do a diagonal, do one of those. So I'm just gonna go through and make a few suggestions of books that I've read that I've really liked that fulfill some of the prompts. My first two are by the same author, Claire Kahn. Wrote The Romantic Agenda and Let's Talk About Love. Both of those books have an asexual main character, and The Romantic Agenda has an ace main character as well as an ace main side character. And the plot of The Romantic Agenda, which I just read recently, it's a romance about the main character who is in love with her best friend. She has been for 10 years. Both her and him are ace, and she, wants to finally let him know. They are gonna go on a weekend away. She thinks that something's gonna happen there, but then it ends up he's bringing his new girlfriend. The girlfriend brings her ex, and there ends up being a fake dating between the main character and the ex of the new girlfriend. And it's just really nice to have romance books with ace characters, because in both of these books, they are asexual, but they are not aromantic. And because Claire Kahn, the author, is also ace, I myself, as an ace person, felt that there was a lot of realism in how she's depicted these characters, but also the fact that they're, different areas of the spectrum. There, because not every person that's asexual is exactly the same. And so I really enjoyed those books, and they fit for the prompts for an ace MC main character. They're romance books, and I would also say they have seasonal vibes because, in particular, the romantic agenda, because they basically go away to a summer house. So, that's those books. Next is a graphic novel series called The Avant-Gardes, and it's by Carly Uzeden. And it's about a basketball team that is at a arts college. And the first volume focuses a lot on them trying to create the basketball team, because it being in performing arts and media arts and such type of school, they don't have too much in the way of sports there, and there's a few main characters that you start to get to know, and there's a trans girl that's on the team, a non-binary character. There's a sapphic relationship between two of the girls on the team. There are several Black characters, so there's a lot of good representation. And for the challenges, it fits in queer sports, and it's a graphic novel. Next is a graphic novel called The Magic Fish, which is written and illustrated by Trung Lee Nguyen, and it's semi-autobiographical, and it is about Trung coming out to his mom when he was a teenager, and it's told through a combination of like real life and fairy tales, because he uses the fairy tales to relate to his mother. And the representation that's in this book is a gaming character, and he is also Vietnamese American. And for the challenges, this is a graphic novel, and it can also be considered a retelling, because a lot of the fairy tales involved in it are being retold. And the next one to bring up is one of my favorite series, Lumberjanes. If you haven't read it, I really recommend it because it's just really fun. It just always makes me feel good and happy. It's all ages, and it's really just about a group of kids at a girls' like wilderness camp during the summer that end up going on like magical adventures and solving all these mysteries at their camp, and they're always getting into trouble when they shouldn't be. But there's so much adventure, but there's also just so much like friendship and just like good feelings, and I really love it. And one of the girls is trans, and there's also a I wouldn't I want to say non-binary, but I don't know if the character actually says that they're non-binary, but they go by they them pronouns. There's a sapphic relationship, and just a lot of good representation in a children's like and all ages comic series, and it can be considered a graphic novel, and I would also say seasonal vibes because it happens during the summer. And there's a lot of volumes, so I think all volumes are available now. It's like 17. So if you find that you really like it, you can just read through it all. Another all ages series that I just really, really enjoy is Goldie Vance, which is created by Hope Larson and based on the fashion and the appearance. It seems to kind of take place in maybe the 40s or 50s, but it's kind of out of time in some ways. Like, there's a lot that in some ways feels kind of modern about it. So Goldie is the main character. She's a teenager that wants to be a detective, and so she helps to solve crimes mainly around the hotel that her father is the manager of. And she's a really fun character. The whole series is really fun. And there are also 2 books out now, like middle grade or YA, probably more middle grade, I would say, written books that are out now. So for representation, the main character Goldie is biracial, and also her parents are divorced, but get along, which I think is just nice to see as normalized in a children's comic. There's also a sapphic relationship, and her 2 best friends are Black, so that's another positive representation. And The only challenge this fulfills is graphic novel, unless this is also a new author too. Ilatsoe is the next book that I want to talk about, and is written by Darcy Little Badger. This book is centered on a indigenous teenager. She's Lipan Apache, and it's a YA, like light fantasy, magical realism, and also a mystery. It's about this teen girl that can raise ghosts, and that's something that runs in her family, and she has to try and solve how her cousin was murdered. And in this world, it's basically our world, but monsters and magic are a little more known and accepted and exist. I really, really liked this book. I thought the mystery aspect of it was great, and also the fantasy. There's a dog that's a really main character that, I mean, if you love animals, like I really, really loved him and got close to that character. And I would look up trigger warnings if you're worried, because there are definitely some dark parts to it. There are definitely, some darker parts, and the ending isn't necessarily happy. I really liked how it ended, but it's not necessarily a happy ending. So the main character is indigenous, and she's also ace and aromantic as well. So this book fulfills both of those challenges. No Man of Woman Born is a fantasy anthology that's written by Anna Mardal, who uses the neo-pronouns Z and Zer. And Anna wrote all these stories set in kind of classic fantasy settings, but they're all about main characters that are trans or non-binary, or just don't fit within the gender binary. And the stories are about basically subverting gendered prophecies. So the prophecies that rely on usually a man will do this, and that is when this curse will be lifted, or something along those lines. I thought all of the stories were very good. Um, but I would definitely look at the trigger warnings. If I remember correctly, each story has detailed trigger warnings before them, um, because some of these stories are quite heavy. They have war and death and murder, and can might be quite difficult for some people. Um, so as far as the challenges, the only one I think that this really fulfills is retelling, because these are kind of a like classic fantasies, classic medieval tales retellings. But also, if you've never read from this author, then this could go in a new to you author. So, a really great comic series that I like that I never really see brought up is called Kim and Kim. It's written by Magdalene Visaggio, and it's kind of sci-fi fantasy that's about two friends. They're both named Kim, and they're trying to make enough money to basically survive as bounty hunters. I believe they live in space in the future, um, but they're always getting into trouble and crazy situations, and a lot of times not getting the bounty that they um, intended to. But I find it to be a really fun series, and it has great art, really nice colors, and it's definitely one that I think more people should look into. Um, One of the Kims is trans, and the other Kim is bi. Um, and I would definitely put this book, as far as the challenges, in the put this in the messy queers section, because they're pretty messy. They're just always getting into trouble and making a mess of everything that they're trying to do. And I would also put it under a graphic novel. My next one is called Into the Drowning Deep, and that's written by Mira Grant, which is Shannon McGuire. It's just, I believe it's her name she uses for adult books. I'm not completely sure, but it's another name that she uses for some of her books. This is more of a like sci-fi horror, and it focuses on mermaids and a group of scientists and researchers that go on a boat to the Mariana Trench, I believe, to discover these mermaids. But it ends up that the mermaids are a lot more of a predator than than they ever thought, than they're usually depicted as. And some of the crew start to get picked off, start to disappear, and there's a lot of science in it. Like, in terms of studying the mermaids, but then there's also kind of a slasher aspect to it. I really enjoyed it. Like, I love mermaids, but um I also really loved this aspect of horror mermaids, of killer mermaids, that they're not beautiful, they're something that is going to kill you. And I actually really loved that. Um, there are two of the scientists that are deaf and they use sign language. There is a sapphic relationship that happens. One of the scientists deals with chronic pain. Um, so that's some of the representation that is in the book. And I didn't think that this book fulfilled any of the prompts unless Mira Grant, Shauna Maguire, is a new author to you or you want to put it in the free space. But I just thought that it's a really good book and I wanted to bring it up. My next book is also a Shauna Maguire book, and it's Every Heart a Doorway, which is the first book in her YA fantasy series. And it's it's about a school for children that have gone through portals to other worlds, all kinds of other worlds. Some good, some bad and horrible. And then they've come back to our world for whatever reason, and now they're having trouble adjusting to not being in their portal world. And the character that this one focuses on is asexual, and I believe she might also be aromantic. I'm not completely sure on that. There's also a trans side character who is a major character in other books in the series, as well as an Asian side character that is a main character in other books in the series. And as for the challenges, this one fulfills an ace or arrow main character. The only nonfiction book that I have on this list is Genderqueer. It's a graphic novel by Maya Kobabe, who uses the pronouns E-M. It's an autobiographical graphic novel about Maya growing up asexual and non-binary. E goes through her childhood, young adulthood, and current life, and I mean, I found it to be really good and impactful, and it was one of the books that I read a few years ago when I was still going through realizing I was non-binary. So I do think that it's an important book. There are just like very few panels that are maybe not for like younger teens or children, because this is dealing with Maya being a young adult and trying out sexuality and having those discussions, as well as some amount of actual physicality. And this is a graphic novel. Personally, I don't think anything was explicit, but that's up to whoever is actually reading it. So this has asexual and non-binary rep, as well as someone that uses neo-pronouns, which is not as common. And for the challenges, it's an ace main character, and it's also nonfiction. Okay, so one of my last ones is We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry, which is a YA, technically historical fiction probably, because it's set in the 80s. I was seeing it listed as historical fiction on Goodreads. I mean, that feels a little weird because the 80s was still recent. But anyways, it's about a high school field hockey team that tries to use witchcraft in order to win their games and be conference champions and be successful. And it's also in a lot of ways a contemporary in terms of its writing style, or literary fiction, in that you're also just really exploring all these characters and who they are and the things they're dealing with. I was originally drawn to it because of the field hockey. I played field hockey for a really long time, and I never find books about field hockey, so that was cool, but also I just found it to be a really good book. This will work for queer sports, and also I would say for messy queers, because they're teenagers. They're trying to, use witchcraft. Things are pretty messy. So I think it fits in there too. My last recommendation is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. I think a lot of people have probably heard of this because it definitely was all over BookTube and Book Instagram when it came out. I've read it twice and really loved it both times. It's a YA graphic novel that's set in France. Doesn't give a particular time period, although it seems it's fictional, but it seems like maybe 19th century is my guess. But it is about a teen girl that's a dressmaker, and she starts to work for the prince to make outfits for him that are for his female alter ego, which he starts to go out as and gain a lot of attention, and he starts to become more comfortable being that person as well as being himself. And this works for graphic novel, but I would also put it in romance. It's not a romance book, but there definitely is a romance at the center of it, so I think you could get away with that if you wanted to. But this is definitely one I would recommend if you can get a hold of it. I just think it's such a beautiful story, and both times I've read it, I just always have such a great feeling at the end. I just really enjoy it. I'm definitely going to read it again sometime. So those are all my recommendations for Queer Lit Readathon. I hope that those are helpful, and I hope that anyone that chooses to participate in this has a good time with the books that they read. This should be fun, so don't worry about having to read all the prompts. Just read what you can. And the next readathon that I'm going to be doing, that's also this month, is Queer Blackathon, which is part of Blackathon. So you can go to Blackathon's social medias to find information about that. I'll try and post information when they have specifics. I'm not sure what the dates are right now. I think last year they might have started on Juneteenth, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to try and do a video of recommendations for that one too. So, hope everyone has a good day and has a good Pride Month. So, bye.